order. Those are probably posted here. Read and approve agenda. I'm not going to read. Approve agenda for the January 5th meeting. It is a 21-point agenda. Entertain a motion to approve. Motion by Frank, second by McKee. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Oh, we have Barb voices also. Thank you. All right. So that brings us to minutes. So I did get an email from the clerk of court asking that we amend the minutes to include a statement just saying that they were asked not to make a report, not that no report was provided or whatever. So I guess I'll make the motion just to approve them, amend it with that amendment.
I'll second.
All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, minutes are approved. Brings us to
Madam Chair,
corner.
just want to notice it's Carrie Steverson.
Oh, hi, Carrie. All right, great. So Carrie's also.
I'm traveling up north right now, so I'm not around.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Do you want to do corner?
Yeah. So. Looks like for December, they had 15 calls, 2 of which were suicide. The death due to vehicle versus bicycle and 2 COVID-19. He said they had an unusual case involving a hospice death where the suspicion of neglect was contributed to the death. An autopsy was performed.
105, wow.
Yeah, ages of deceased range from 37 to 105. 2023 totals, they had 147 calls. That's up from 130 in 2022. 3 suicides, which is down from 22. 2 overdose deaths. 8 accidents, which is up 1 from 2022. Breakdown of accidents: 1 car versus pedestrian, 1 fire, 1 logging, 1 ATV, 1 motorcycle, 1 tractor, 1 fall, 1 truck versus bicycle. 6 COVID deaths, 127 out of 140 were cremations. 43 hospice and 20 autopsies, 7 are still pending. And ages range from 5 to 105. Chief Deputy Ruth Bristol is retired at the end of 2023. He's grateful for her years of service and she'll be deeply missed. Please be sure to wish her well in retirement. He's pleased to share that Kate Lewandowski started with the coroner's office on January 1st. Kate is the EMT with Blue River EMS and has a background as a medic in the military. She will be taking the majority of the weekday shifts from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. and I will continue with weekday evenings, 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. Jeff Bristol, Nikki Doyle, and Kathy Rosing will be rotating the weekends, and I will be filling in as needed. Best wishes for all and a happy and healthy 2024. As always, please reach out if you have any concerns. Jim.
All right, so I should have mentioned when we approved the agenda that I am going to move emergency management up because John needs to go to a DNR meeting at 9:30. So we're going to do him first. I'll do that item first. Okay, so as you all know, Darren took a different position in, was it November? I can't even remember.
November.
Yeah, November. And John has been filling in, but we need to figure out what we're doing. So just to remind everyone, that position has historically been a 60% emergency management and 40% ambulance. And the Joint Ambulance Committee created a little subcommittee to look at how we think we might want to move forward with filling one or both of those positions, whether we have them together or separate. We do have some concerns about being able to find someone who's actually interested in doing ambulance and emergency management. They are not necessarily two occupations that generally overlap. But after many discussions, they are making the recommendation to the Joint Ambulance Committee that we at least advertise the position as it is and see if we can get it filled. We don't want it to go on forever though, so we want to have it on a pretty tight timeline. So the recommendation that they're making that I'm going to suggest we could also make today, if that's how we want to move forward, would be to advertise the position with the job description that was attached in your folders, starting as soon as it's approved by the Joint Ambulance Committee, which I believe is the 17th. So get that description out there in the third week in January, and then list it for a month and see, and then at that point review what if any candidates we get. And if there's some that look promising, then we would go ahead and move through an interview process. But if after a month we've got nobody that looks like they would be promising, then we will immediately need to come back to each of these committees and discuss how we would move forward with separating the two positions. It's certainly a cost saving, and it worked really, really well but I think let's be honest, it has solely to do with Darren and his willingness and ability to juggle those two things. But we thought it was at least worth a try. Financially, it makes sense for both the county and the ambulance service to at least see if we can get the position filled this way. But I don't want these two positions to be open. We do have interim coverage, but we can't ask John and Amber Birch to do this forever. So that's what they're suggesting. And I guess I would like to know from this committee if you're okay with that plan, or if there's concerns with that plan, or what we'd like to do.
Are there concerns with the ambulance group? Well, I guess what are their concerns? What are they interested in? Are they interested in needing someone more time?
No, they would like, so they're suggesting we keep it combined because that would be their preferred way of handling this. Would be 40% ambulance and 60% county. I think it has to do with finances, that trying to come up with them, they'd have to come up with a 60% of the salary that was being covered, and that would be a big increase in their budget. And we do ask that they cover their own expenses, so they would have to.
And the office is at the ambulance building.
It is, yep. And with Darren, that worked very well. I guess we'd have to see with a new person, but I did ask if there was any internal candidates that they thought might be interested that are already used to the whole situation, and they didn't know of any, but they weren't sure. I suppose it depends when we get to the next discussion about setting the salary. And I wish that Candace was here, because obviously she will be pivotal in that conversation. She said she was going to be here, but so I guess I would like to so I guess let's take action on these individually, just because that's the way it's in the. So if someone would like to make a motion to what I just said. So essentially the motion would be that we are going to move forward with advertising the position as with the same job description, as it was before when Darren filled the position, as a 60-40 split.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, so motion by McKee, second by Frank. Any other discussion on that?
You want to put the time limits you mentioned?
Yeah, so the timeline would be that we would, by mid-March, we would be looking at candidates. And if there aren't any that are promising, then we would immediately get into a situation where we would start splitting the jobs and advertising them separately.
Reviewing what we need to do.
Yeah, because we don't want these, we can't have these positions open forever. It's a lot to ask of the people.
So you're saying wouldn't get applications, or we wouldn't be checking, or we'd wait till March?
Well, so we want to give at least 4 weeks. So if we don't advertise until the last part of, basically we want to be accepting applications for most of February. And then we'll look at them. And if we have good applicants, we would do interviews in March. But if we don't have good applicants, then in March, we should come back and be like, okay, we need
You
to,
can't advertise it. So
we're gonna start advertising as soon as it's approved by Joint Ambulance, because it hasn't been approved by them
Oh.
yet. This is just their subcommittee's recommendations, and then it's gonna go to both committees for approval.
So they're-
And honestly, yeah, and honestly, it's not up to us because we don't hire department heads, the administrator does. So what we're doing is we're making our recommendation to the, who I've spoken to and is in favor of us trying this. Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Four. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, that is approved. So we'll go ahead and we'll move forward with that. So the job description, I just put that in there. Darren did just recently review it to make sure that it's still accurate and it is. So I don't think we need to take any action on that unless you've read it and you find some issue with it and want something changed.
Now, if we should decide to split them, then the job descriptions.
Would change and it'd have to go through finance because we'd be creating different positions. Yeah.
I'll make a motion to.
Job description as written. All right, second by Frank. Any other discussion on the job description? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? All right. And then the hiring committee, so and obviously this also is up to the administrator, but we are going to make, they are going to make a recommendation, and their recommendation is that there would be a representative from this committee, likely me, unless someone else really wants to do it. And then the chair of the Joint Ambulance, which I think is Brian McGraw. And then Darren has, because Candace likes to have one external professional, and Darren has agreed that he would do it, which I think would be really helpful to have his input since he's obviously juggled that job for a long time. And then Candace, and I'm assuming she may ask like Derek, because she's been having Derek in on quite a few of those. Does anyone else? Oh, and there also was a suggestion that because Carrie is on both public safety and the Joint Ambulance, that Carrie would also be a good addition to that if he's able to make it. So that was what they were going to recommend. I don't know if anyone has any other suggestions as to people you think would be important to have on this is assuming we get applicants to interview.
Sounds like a good mix.
Okay. So, I mean, I don't know that we necessarily need I guess we could do a motion on that since we're going to be making this a recommendation to the administrator. You two want to keep your streak going?
Yeah, so the motion is going to be
That the
what list of people?
the hiring committee consists of,
Right.
yeah,
That consists of, just to make sure we have that out
would
again.
be the chair of public safety and then, public safety member Severson, who's on both the chair of Joint Ambulance Committee and external professional, which is Darren, and the county administrator, and then she has been having the clerk also sit in as another county rep.
I would make that motion with those lists.
Okay,
I'll second that.
all right. Any discussion on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? All right, and this one, I was really hoping that Candace would be here because, so I think what we could, because I don't know the exact numbers, and well, it's grade, it's pay grade K, and does anyone have the schedule? I can't get into the schedule.
I was gonna say, I might.
I have it.
Yeah,
It's sitting
like-
on my desk.
I can never remember the password to get into the county,
I can grab it. It's sitting on my desk.
whichever one, I don't care.
There you go.
So I think that we do want to try to advertise this. Whatever, I don't know how much flexibility we're gonna have because of our wage scale. And we're not changing the job description, but I think we have someone mentioned to me something about if you're hiring a department head, there's some leeway that you can hire them at step something. I don't know.
how's that gonna work with for 60/40? Is the pay scale we're looking at just for our 60,
No, it would be for the whole thing.
the whole thing?
Yeah, because it's one job description and then how it's paid for is just split.
Does the ambulance group have any say in that because they have a budget that they have to
So
calculate?
they're gonna recommend it the same that we are. It's that, so they are in agreement that we do want to try to, so it's pay grade K,
Is 3107 to 34.
3107 to 3451.
Yep.
So, I mean, obviously, I feel like, I guess what our recommendation would be to put them on the higher end of the wage scale, if that's possible, because I know we have rules about what we can and can't do and what we're supposed to do.
I
But
need a motion for that.
I do, I mean, I feel like, unless you don't want to do that, but I think to attract someone to want to take on these two things, I think we want the salaries to be the best we can do.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, when they're combined.
Salary.
Well, I mean, that's the salary for this job description, which includes both duties.
Yeah. So if we, of course, we.
Then we'd have a whole different conversation and it would have to, both job descriptions would have to go through some sort of, I mean, I guess Carlson Detman, I'm not sure, but whatever.
As hard as it is to fill jobs.
Yeah,
I think
so,
we need to make it that kind of.
so if someone wants to make a motion that we are asking that it be placed at the highest possible hourly salary
I'll
within
make that.
that grade. Because we don't want to change the pay grade because then it has to go through a whole new financing thing and it'll drain the whole thing out. Okay, so I have a motion in a second. Any other discussion on that?
So the discussion, is this because we're gonna advertise it that way?
Yes.
Wouldn't we just advertise it as this range so we can choose the ability to go by experience?
Will be the highest range. The highest range.
I mean, if we can go, I don't know, that's why Candace said she was gonna be here, so,
I texted her.
yeah, so,
30, if you put in the advertisement 3107 to 3451 an hour, based on experience.
it's not, see, that's the other confusing part, is it's a salaried position, it's not hourly, they don't get overtime. So I don't wanna list, I don't even wanna list it in the newspaper as hourly, because then people assume they'll get overtime.
Yeah.
So I think we have to list a salary, and we can list a salary range,
Yes.
but I guess I would just like to make sure that whatever we can do for the top end, we wanna make sure that we have that ability. If the person is quality, I mean, I just wanna be able to attract good people,
Let's do that the highest range and then maybe 62 cents we go more.
or something like that, yeah.
$2,000.
So, okay, did I have a motion on this? Okay.
Yeah, that was
All
our
right,
discussion.
so I just want to make sure that Candace knows that we're supportive of getting this position advertised at the best rate we can, best pay rate range that we can manage, so.
That works.
Okay, so all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, okay, so did you want to say anything?
Other than I can probably do this for a year to a year plus. So
Okay, I think the more the pressure is on that Amber is not interested
I think
in
it's-
taking this on for forever, so there
I've
is.
been doing this since 1999, version of it, and helping all the technical aspects of emergency management. So I'm more than familiar with it. I don't think too much of a learning curve. I got to do the state stuff with them. But other than that, I'm pretty comfortable doing this for at least a year.
Not-
My side.
Not forever?
Well, hey, I'm not excluding that either. But as an interim director, the way it's set up for me right now,
It's
about a
okay.
year of this, the way it's set up at this time would be.
So what have you committed to? Just remind us, what have you committed to? Are you here like a couple days a week
I'm
doing?
20 hours a week where it's needed during.
Okay,
And then I'm trying, Clay is helping me with the 24/7 piece. So don't really have that kind of flexibility because of my own situation.
okay,
But, I mean, that could change too at some point. Clay and I would have to work together on overnight emergency type things.
yeah, because this position really does require 24/7.
It does.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can work my way to that in a longer term thing is what's being looked at. But everything else, I'm pretty comfortable.
All right, that's good. Thank you.
So-
And that's helpful. That gives us some time. unfortunately, I think Amber is not, she has stated that she was very concerned about a timeline and how long this was gonna go on for. She's the person filling in on the ambulance side, as the interim director on the ambulance side. So
Yeah, I mean,
I tried talking to her, I said, you really can. She is not interested at all, as so far, so
yeah, she's good at it.
she's
but
very good.
It's probably kind of stress she's not really continuing, but.
Right,
'Cause it's-
okay. All right, well, see, I told you I'd get you out before. So here we are, we're good. All right, so then we're gonna circle back and we're
There's one other thing on the courthouse security committee piece of this, I think, as long as I'm here. I must
well,
mention
we can go to that next. Well, actually, the circuit court judge is not here, so.
Right, so, she's not here today, so she won't be making any comments. She's in.
Okay, so we can actually not do 6 and go right to 7 for the courthouse security and facility?
Right.
Okay, so,
That is in our integrated preparedness plan, which is a new thing this year. Survey what the whole county needs for training and exercising. Did that, and the courthouse came pretty much all the way up to the top of that. So under the integrated preparedness plan, we have training and exercising scheduled for this year and going into next year. And
so
the
maybe
idea-
John, have you been to the courthouse security meetings at all?
I've no idea.
So maybe he would be I don't know,
Darren kind of hit or miss. I mean, he has been to some, maybe not to all of them, but I will definitely add you to the.
Yeah, I might as well
So
participate.
at this time, we're only having those meetings quarterly, because things take time, but, we'd also want to keep things moving in those directions. So, I will definitely add you to our list.
so do you know, like, what, were you planning fall, summer? Do you
Yeah.
have any kind of plan as to when you were thinking of doing those?
I mean, Darren and I were kind of just having preliminary discussions about it. I was taking feedback from the committee to Darren and saying, hey, we want to look at doing tabletop type exercises and then going into more training and stuff like that.
And you're prepared to do those?
Yeah. Well, I.
So we don't have to put it on hold?
Planning and design committee, some kind of way. I think Clay and I could probably work with details of that.
It would be good, because it would be good to not have to wait until we fill the position to start working.
Oh,
on
no,
those.
that has to happen now anyway. I'm obligated even as interim.
Yeah, okay, good.
So the issue there is gonna be to get everyone's ideas to the table on the building security, physical and otherwise. And then take a look at where people sit in terms of how they could respond to an actual incident. Just survey where everyone's at. And then based on that, try to get everyone trained up to the level the consensus wants everyone to be at. And then look at what kind of training is required to get everyone to that level, and then start exercising after that. So people have to be trained first before an exercise can even happen. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. So we want to find out what the training needs are first. Okay, the very first thing that needs.
So do you want to come up with a timeline of, and
Yeah.
start getting it on people's calendars of when to actually do it?
I can elevate that.
I feel like if we don't
Yeah.
start saying, okay, we're gonna start setting these meetings, it's just so easy to push it off to the side because everyone's so busy.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. So we need to do a training needs assessment. And based on whatever those needs are, then we'd have to either get
Is there anything else on your plate that's higher priority than the IPP?
Close out and then launching the new grant year for upgrading MVG. It's kind of a little bit higher right now.
So obviously,
So for the month of January, I got to
finish that stuff up.
2023, then I get 2024 started on the MVG.
Okay.
Once I'm done with that, I should be.
Then you can move to this. Okay,
Courthouse.
that sounds good.
And Candace had mentioned some things that you want to physically harden, some of the infrastructure of the buildings. So we can take that into account, cameras and doors and badge passes and so forth. Not too much unlike what we have up there right now in Jefferson Street. Something like that.
Okay,
So we can take that into account and the training into account, and then I think we can address most of your concerns. So that's kind of what the plan is right now.
okay. Did you have anything you want to add as far as the security meeting?
I mean, I just want to kind of reiterate what John said. We had a lot of people at the meeting, we had the sheriff, we had our court security officers, we had Marty Brewer. So, I mean, I feel this is we were all talking about this together, it's not just from the court, so, I guess I'm open. I just want to, on the recommendations, again, point out that this is going to be added to, and it's not inclusive, it's not ending, what.
Right, but these were the priorities you've identified,
Right
you'd like addressed first, but
Yeah,
before you.
and some of these are already in the works. But we just wanted to kind of, again, at your request, put them in writing, put it, like,
Yep.
this is where we're at. So there's kind of a written record.
Did the committee provide, do you have an active capital improvements plan that you've been submitting to the administrator as far as these are your priorities that?
So that is still, again, work in progress. So we've been allotted 25,000, which doesn't go real far.
Right, of course.
But, and I think like the cameras were under, the surveillance cameras were under something else. And so, like you question on the signage, for example, is that going to come out? I think whether that's going to come out of some of these things out of Clay's budget or that's going to come out of capital improvement is yet to be determined.
Yeah, I mean, signage isn't usually signs paid for on Randy's budget. The general.
Yes, Randy, he says no.
He said no. Well, but we're going, but what I'm saying is when we're going through the 2025 budget process, if he knows that he's got signs he needs to improve on, then he can make sure that's in his budget. I think we need to decide who's gonna pay for it and then make sure they put it in their budget.
We have the uniformity of the signs throughout the courthouse.
That's why it should be building maintenance,
That
right?
should be one though, yes, otherwise you get, okay, yeah.
And because so that's the thing is, I would like some guidance on how to get that decided. How do we work?
I
Because
feel like we should have a process for if you want to sign.
Well,
This is
and
what
I
you
mean, because, we make suggestions and they're like, okay, how's it gonna be paid for? Whose budget is it gonna come out of? And I feel like a lot of times we're circling, is it gonna be Clay's budget? Is it gonna be Randy's?
That's what I'm
budget?
saying. We need to actually just say. it's-
Candace,
Yeah, Candace needs to decide whose budget it's coming out of and then that department has to add it to their budget.
Okay,
If she decides I mean, assuming that it's approved as a priority, that should be put in someone's budget, which I don't know why we wouldn't want. Because I'm assuming these are the signs you're talking about that are explaining to people that their bags are gonna be searched or whatever, better signs that.
yeah, and right now
In
I'm,
the security.
in the interim, we just put up paper signs, to get something up and.
We did.
Yeah.
Right, but obviously, having something a
Downstairs.
little better, having a permanent sign makes sense. Okay. I mean,
Who's ultimately responsible for courthouse security?
yeah, it's the sheriff. So that's probably why they think it should come out of.
Courtroom.
Collectively.
They're all.
But who's paying for it?
I mean, they probably want it to come out of your budget because it's the biggest budget and it has the most, I suppose, the most room for, but, I don't care whose budget it comes out of. There's some of these things that we just need
It all
to.
comes out of the same pot in the end.
Exactly.
Yeah, but we all have to fight. The problem is
I-
all the departments have to fight each other all the time for our money. So if I want to put something in here, or we want the judge to do it, it's because my office is going to have to fight with the judge's office. We're going to have to fight with the sheriff's department. That's why it matters to me. And you know what?
Oh, no, man, I'm just messing with the play.
Yeah, but it all, but your comment is it all comes out of the same pot? It does. It absolutely 100% does.
But how we
But-
split the pie up is.
And who we pit against one another. So it's not just how we divide it up. It's I need the money, or Jen needs the money, or sheriffs, and everyone goes like this because all the departments, when they say, why do you want to increase your budget for this month? District attorney, or for this year, why do you want to do this? Why, right? So that's the problem, is not where the money comes, but where it comes from. And because we all have to fight with each other about it, which is unfair and has always been the case, as you well know.
You say, unfortunately, probably been having this conversation since 1842.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, that's exactly the
Yeah,
problem.
I mean, seriously, I'm sure that's the same conversation as well.
I've had this conversation since government started because there's
Yeah.
a responsibility to go through the process to ensure we're responsible and this is how we develop.
Sure, but I don't think it's that so much. I think that transparency is good. I think figuring out budgets is good. What the problem is the process here has been, all the departments have to say, you do it because I'm gonna get screwed by the county board when they start pissing with me saying, why does Jennifer want a $4,500 increase? Why does she want the increase? Because the mandate from everyone is from on high is we have to do, you need to have a 0 increase budget for next year, or you have to cut 5% off or from what year, and then we don't. Well, Jennifer's asking for more money, right? Or Jen's asking for more money. And so then we have to fight with each other because this is how it's been set up historically. I don't have a problem with like figuring it out. The problem is that we've all been pitted against each other. And perhaps that's been happening historically too, but
I feel like that's been getting a little bit better than last
This-
year.
it has been getting better. It has been getting better.
Because we have money.
Yes.
I think it gets,
So miraculously, we all of a sudden have money. I
Right,
don't know
when we're
quite
fighting-
yet of what we have so much money.
Right, when we start fighting for limited resources,
yeah.
right, the rats start fighting against.
I mean, and that's
there's
just-
not
that's-
enough cheese.
And that's the nature of the beast though.
Well,
Yeah,
I,
it did come to a height though
Yeah,
when,
I don't
not
know
so long
that-
ago when we were, going to referendum and we were looking at making cuts. And that's when it felt like it really got difficult.
Which of course, because anytime you're making cuts, that, I mean, there's no way to make that a comfortable, fun conversation.
Right.
Asking people to cut positions and cut when you're already understaffed and overworked. Of course that, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I don't think there was a good way to have that conversation. Maybe we could have done a few things a little better, but in general, there was no way to have that be a good conversation. It's horrible for everyone. So, all right, so anything else on courthouse security?
yes. Oh, I don't, go ahead, I have some too.
No, I mean, at this time, those are the recommendations coming out of the courthouse security and facilities meeting. Unless if someone, wants to add anything else.
No, I think just having that committee meet regularly is really good, that it's, that those, because I mean, I was on it for the first 4 years I was on the board and it met like twice. And yet there was, we were having all these problems, and so I feel like there's movement, and having the committee behind making sure that you are organized and coming up with exactly what you need, I think that's really good, and it'll really help. And keeping it in front of everybody, so we don't, just like, oh yeah, that's right, there are bats in the courthouse, ha ha ha, right? But now we're actually taking care of the problem instead of just, so. Okay, did you have something you wanted to add on courthouse security?
Yeah, I don't know, so it says issues to be aware of were discussed by Judge McDougal, Stacey Kleist. Attorney Fisher sent an email to me about a situation which happened outside the courtroom. I don't know who is aware of what happened outside the courtroom. We had a criminal case. It involved someone who had a firearm restriction because they had a domestic abuse injunction, that kind of thing. Of course, victims get to show up in the office, up in the courtroom, and it's an open courtroom. So what happened was, my case is done. The defendant is leaving the courtroom. Tia Fisher is, so this happened on the,
Like the law library, right?
no, the other side, the very small side. No.
Yeah, this is more recent.
Yeah, this is more recent. So this is area by the jury room, which is very, very small. So in that area, we had Tia Fisher, who's an attorney, a civil attorney, and one or two of her clients or something like that, sitting out in a very, very small area. So the guy who's the defendant is actually not the one who's torqued off. It was the husband of the woman who is pissed about everything. So my defendant gets done. He walks into the area where we have Tia and a couple of her clients or client and family of clients. And then we have the guy who's been sitting in the gallery who's torqued off. He follows the defendant out into this very small area. They have an argument and at least one put their hands on the other one. There is at least the beginning of some shoving. So, and it was bad enough that court security, who sits way over there in the courtroom, had to come out to find out what was going on. And then they all sort of scattered at that point. So we've got people who are not involved in the case, these civilians, we have another attorney, we have people who are pushing each other outside the courtroom.
Is that the entrance that we're thinking of if we made it a single entrance to the court, that would be the entrance to the court, the
Yes.
small side?
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yep, where everyone's there or everyone's there together.
That is the downside of that, and the other downside of that, it's right beside a staircase. I mean, so,
So
That-
it
push
is,
someone down the stairs.
yeah,
That was the concern.
Oh, we fell down the
That,
stairs.
that was a concern, that if the melee continued, they're going right down the stairs. I mean, it's a tiny spot, it's a wide entry to the stairs because it's an old fashioned
And the-
staircase, so.
and they're steep and long and like,
And marble or something, right?
Right.
Stone?
Right, and one of the persons who wasn't even involved in that could have gone down because the
Yeah.
tussle was going on. So I just wanted to let you aware of a little bit more of that. There is some level of frustration about the signage. We've been doing the signage, who pays for it, who does this? So indeed, there should be better signs down at the doors, but the paper signs at least will get the party started. Keep your bags in your cars. So those.
Is that working? Are people abiding by that without too much trouble? Keeping their big bags?
I've seen fewer bags. I mean, we used to see like a lot of big bags coming down. I think there have been fewer bags. It says somewhere on here, one of the recommendations is wanding of persons who enter the courtroom, persons and their bags. That is happening really, really well. No one gets 2 feet in the door until, I'm not saying it happens right there at the door, but until we have court security heading up wanding people, so that.
So we are wanting people?
We're wanting everybody know. We started that, November, October?
That I couldn't tell you, but that's working. So that there are fewer bags. I know there are fewer bags by people who are a problem.
I will comment, when we had a jury trial, sometimes I have, haven't done this as much since COVID, but in the beginning, I would meet people downstairs when they were first entering, and then if they had a bag, we would ask them to return the bag and only bring in, a small keys, wallet type of thing. So I think that's, especially for jury trials, that's also being done. Not so much daily, but there's certain times it's certainly being done.
So we're making small steps.
We're making 3 steps. Yes.
Okay.
And then there was one other thing that I had talked to the judge about, but we didn't do it at the courthouse security meeting, is when court is out of session, right? We have courtroom security when court is in session. However that works, I'm not in charge of any of that. But when court was not in session, the doors are open. So the doors are sitting open to the courtroom, both sides, and so people can come in, people who are cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, I won't give you the list of names, get to come in and just be in the courtroom because the doors are open.
So do they
I shut
not
the
get
doors.
shut at the end of the day?
Well,
They don't get locked
Any
the
ever?
main courtroom is never locked.
right, it's never locked, but I'm talking about between hearings. So let's say there's hearings at 1 o'clock, we have bail hearings, people are really pissed off at those, but the doors haven't been shut since the last hearing we had at 10 o'clock. Whatever, the doors are just sitting open. So not only are they not locked, but they're just open, right? So anyone can come in. We have hearings that are at 1 o'clock, which are usually sometimes fairly tense. We have people who come in there at 10:30 because 12:30, they just come in because the doors are open. So I'm shutting the doors. So after every hearing, shutting the doors, right? Because we have to do something. So at least that's what we're doing. Fake signs downstairs, be shutting the doors, and there was something that the wanding is happening really well. So we continue to move forward on the things that we can, and that's what I can tell you. And then we had that tussle outside the courtroom.
All right. Anything else? Okay, so that would bring us to the clerk of court. So everyone, she did send an email with her budget. And I will just briefly, just for the record, I will summarize what she says. So she's working on reconciliation for December 2023 revenues, and we'll be paying out those to the county treasurer hopefully later today. As of right now, I know the clerk of court has met and exceeded revenue projections for this year. I will not know how much until all these figures have been reconciled. Payments made by me to the treasurer accounts posted accordingly by the county's fiscal specialist. When I know that piece, I will share it with you. So that's the report from the clerk of court. That brings us to probate.
I don't have a lot other than the courthouse security was my main thing this month. Right now, as of December 31st, I'm at 93% for budget, but
I'm assuming the attorneys haven't all turned in their bills.
yeah. I'm hoping to be, right there. That's my hope, of course, at the end of it, is to be very close to what my.
Yeah, in March, we'll review everyone's 2023, so once everything's all in and reconciled.
Yeah.
So, but that's good. I mean, I'm not surprised that you weren't at, it seems like no matter what you do, the attorneys always seem to wait until the very last.
Yes, so like one attorney, I got the whole year's, her bill covered the whole 2023.
Instead of billing like every 6 months.
Right, instead of billing quarterly or every 6 months, so I'm like, okay, here's a year's worth of work on this case. But that's just the nature of the beast.
Obviously, they don't
didn't have deadlines, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Anyway, every attorney is a little bit different on
Right.
that.
Okay.
So, and other than that, we're just plugging along. The judge will be in Iowa County for 2 weeks. We're still doing lots of out of county cases, especially coming out of Vernon County. But otherwise, we're just working away.
All right. Sounds good. Any questions for her? All right, that brings us to district attorney. Did you have more to add than security? Your budget?
Yeah, well. So as you guys can have them, just so you can look. So I'll give Amber a look. I'll do a bunch of these. So the bottom line is this, because everyone likes the bottom line, is of my budget, I'm at 82% at the end of the year.
Is that because you had openings in your office where salary wasn't spent?
Well, it's gonna be part of that, and then there's gonna be part because I'm being very protective of my budget, so I can't, just so you guys can, I don't know until I look at the numbers and figure. I'm sure that's the main portion, because we had someone who was there and then someone who quit.
You're fully staffed now, correct?
Fully staffed has been fantastic.
And that includes the new position is filled. Right?
Yeah, everything's going really well on that, in that respect. We're still trying to figure out the electronic media, how we get it from the sheriff's department to our office. We're still having some difficulty with getting certain kinds of media.
By media, you mean video?
Digital
Yeah,
evidence.
not just video, like for instance, we need phone calls from the sheriff's department.
Oh, I see.
And we used to walk down there and thumb drive and put the thumb drive and thing. And so we can't do that anymore. So we have to, so this is how we finally figured it out, because the state, so across the state permits thumb drives. So we are not on the county system, which does not permit thumb drives, but the state does. So physically, what we have to do is an officer has to come down to our office physically. We use our thumb drives that the state permits us to put in. And then, I don't know, there's some mooga where the officer who is physically in my office gets to go into or can go into things like the biggest problem has been jail calls, is able to pull the jail calls out from the county so I can have it on a thumb drive so we can provide it in discovery. So it's really slowing down the discovery problem at this point, despite the fact that the judge is lovely and a good judge. She's getting pretty pissed off. I have a trial in 2 weeks. It starts on the 22nd on a firearm case. And I still don't have all the discovery because we can't.
So Candace, are you aware of this issue?
Well, we've set up a terminal down in the sheriff's office.
That's it for something different.
Yeah, well, I
I thought that corrected our issue.
we need another.
Horn, yeah.
So I emailed Barb about it yesterday, but we need another one.
And but the other thing I'm not clear on is, like Amber has put out 1,500 documents to Jennifer's office.
So,
And you're putting out a ton of documents.
so,
See everything that's
so
about.
there's a difference because we get different stuff, right? We all know that.
Right.
So all the documents come over easy peasy, right? So we have all the documents. That's not the problem. So one thing on the lapel cams, right, is Amber downloads does whatever she does, right? Because we all got to meet in the sky. And so puts the lapel cams, like we're having this problem on this case, which I have in 2 weeks, which I haven't seen all the media on. And the judge denied my motion to adjourn the trial. So Amber puts all the media, the lapel cams, right, has put it in, like we're talking about Crowd, which is the case that's coming in. You've put it in, whatever. Your system won't even let you download it for, how long did that one run yesterday? 8 hours and it didn't work.
Well, yesterday it ran all afternoon and I don't know why, but it.
Right. And so we still haven't, at least as of yesterday afternoon, my hair was on fire this morning earlier. I don't know if we've gotten it yet.
I ran it the day before and then the internet system and everything went
Right.
down, so then it aired out, so then I ran it yesterday again and it took all afternoon and it still wasn't done by the time I
Right.
left.
So, I don't know what has to happen for that. So the one thing that kiosk does downstairs is, I think it's the one that's not hooked up to anything in the rest of the system. So you can use a thumb drive and you can do the stuff on that. The issue with that is that's only for porn cases, right? So that's really putting,
No.
are we doing all of them now?
There is a device that's only for court cases that was provided to us by ICAC.
Oh, all right.
Yes, the other device, the problem with the other device is it's on the secure side of the cage and only a couple people can access it.
Right.
So that's why I'm asking for another
Right.
one in another location where everybody can.
But what I've heard is you can't get everything down off of that, like our phone calls from the jail.
Well, we can't,
We could,
yeah,
but we haven't.
we can't because it's not connected to the internet.
Right. So when so for instance, this guy who's not supposed to be having weapons and he's a dangerous guy and all that kind of stuff, he's making phone calls and he's saying things like, I had the firearms and I wanted to kill cops with them and I wanted all this stuff. I want to use that for my jury trial. I can't get that. I just can't. Okay,
Okay,
so I'm
fair.
gonna suggest that you guys all work
Well,
this out.
we've been trying to work it out, and it's just not
And
working.
in my prior life, when we had these issues, then MIS was requested to pull X amount of data from this time to this time and get it to whomever needed it. And so, I mean,
We
but-
haven't been requested for any of that stuff. We got the request on play yesterday.
so I mean, is that a possibility to streamline that process?
I still need it on a thumb drive.
Okay,
So
but
there's-
if MIS is the one to do it, I think Barb would feel much more comfortable putting it on a thumb drive. Would you not, if you provided a secure thumb drive, would you then allow her to utilize that?
Well, she can use whatever she wants because she's not on ours. The problem is, like, I can't even use thumb drive on my
Right.
computer.
Right.
But we can get a computer to Clay's that they can.
But so is that gonna be hooked up to their internet?
No, it's not hooked up to any.
That's the problem, Barb. is
It
that
cannot
we
be on
need
that one,
something
right.
that's hooked in.
I just need to understand what we can get to her that we can't do using really quick files. And nobody has stopped to have that conversation with us, so offline, not in a meeting, we can certainly have that conversation and we can figure it out.
Okay, so you guys are all gonna set up a time to talk and get this figured out?
Yes.
This week or, well, next week, because it's Friday.
Yeah, I mean.
Okay.
Monday, we're gonna figure it out.
Okay,
Best we can do.
right, Mr. Did you have a question? Oh, I thought you were raising your hand. Sorry. Okay, all right, did you have anything else? Okay, so that brings us to your emergency management. So that would bring us to the PSAP GIS grant monthly updates. Just to backtrack on the emergency management canvas. So we did exactly what I talked about yesterday with you.
Perfect.
We did motions on all 4 of these items. So I guess we could quick circle back to, so the item D is the salary range. So we did look up that, because the description says it's a K.
Yeah.
Grade K. And the hourly rate is 3107 to 3451. So because this is a salary position, like there's no overtime.
Yep.
I'm assuming that we would then list it advertise it as a salary and not an hourly?
I usually do both. I
Okay.
put the hourly or and because people,
Because I mean, if I saw hourly, I would assume that it's an hourly position, and that if I work overtime, I would get overtime.
and when we, right, and when we onboard people, we talk about, you know, if you are exempt or non-exempt, and this is an exempt department head level position, and that's, you know, people
Right.
usually understand that as well.
And it's so essentially the motion that we made is just that we would like to make sure that we can advertise this at the highest salary we can, are allowed to.
I usually put the whole range, because then it gives us room to negotiate if we need to.
So this, it said it's a grade K. Is the step part, what is the step part where it would be, at step one, it would be the 3107 and if it's
Nope,
step-
well, nobody starts at step one anymore. Everybody starts at step two.
So step two is 3107?
And so step two is, or actually it says step three on here, that might be it, but it's 3107 to 3451.
Yep.
And so that's the range that when I put a job out there, I put the 3107 or in the annual to the 3451 and then the annual. Because that gives us the opportunity to, if we need to negotiate within that range, but then they know what the max is.
So the max we can do is the 3451.
Yeah, and I mean, to hire at that level, that would take board action. Because we're just jumping to the top of the scale. So that's where, you know, we have to have one heck of a candidate with a lot of experience and whatever
Okay.
to recommend that we just jump to the top. But that also being said, you know, if we have a hire before March, when the wage study comes, they may get a bump almost immediately anyway, when we write wages, or at least within a few months,
Okay.
which would be good.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yep.
All right, so PSAP GIS grants, so do we have any updates on that?
Specific updates for them.
Did we close out last year's? Like, did we spend all of?
We have
the
18
first?
months, so we have
Oh.
6 months in. I just got another billing for, Crossroads that I just paid out of that this last week. So that's another bill towards that. And we are working diligently with Baycom to try to get engineering stuff in. I have some paperwork I'll be filling out for that's for the PSAP part of it.
Is that for the 2024,
No, that's 23.
23s? Okay, because we got one of the 2020,
Got the NG 911,
for 2020.
well,
Well, 2020.
not the PSAP one, but
Right. And any training? How are we doing on spending our training dollars from this grant?
I'd have to check with Mike on.
You guys you wanna check on that for next month and let us know where we're at? When is the 18-month up for that first round?
June, sorry.
June? Okay, so let's in February, let's just base and see where we are for how we
I
spent
just
up.
need to submit for that, so I'll need it, I think by the end of this month, actually, for that.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
So just a side note for that, the next grant round, probably coming out in August. You know, hoping to notify in July, probably out in August. $18 million up from 6 million on the GIS, on the PSAP side, and 6 million up from 2 million on the GIS side. So now's the time to start looking at what we want to do from that point into the next 18
You
months.
can't use it on people, right?
Well, you can use it on contracts, like the GIS side.
No.
You have a contract.
I mean,
you want done.
Contracted dispatchers.
Yeah, so I was like, can we pay for some dispatchers to splinter jail dispatch? So, okay. All right, so that brings us to the sheriff's department. So bills.
Any questions about the bills?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same, I mean, there's all that bold.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that, I'm assuming that helps you inform how you do the next budget. Most of it we overspend.
And most of that, or all of it,
So did our radio,
most of it is, yes, our radio contract came in over.
it went higher than it
Yeah.
it had?
Yep, and we knew we knew that happened, because we didn't get the maintenance contract till after we had budgeted. But I'd also underspent that sheet. So I think
I'll have to double check, but I think we're still under on our overall on that sheet. So
On the overall budget
for radio
for radio projects?
yes,
So even though that line item was overspent, your overall budget for radio.
I believe we should still be under 100. Yep.
Yeah, like I said, in March, when pretty much all the bills have come in, and so March, the beginning of March, we'll go ahead and look at everyone's 2023 to see how it went and what modifications we might need to make for the 25 budget.
And then the rest of it pretty much is all care of prisoners in some degree. So
Right, we went over because we had more people in the jail
that we're
than
anticipating.
normal, than our average, historical, however you want to put it. Okay, does anyone have any questions on the mills?
Make a motion to approve.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Those are approved. So that would bring us to your reports.
Yeah. So for December, we had $60,656.78 in vouchers. Number of jail bookings was up slightly, up to 52. Average number of inmates housed was 30.49. Monthly complaints, we had 369 complaints for the month. Issued 38 citations, seven warnings were issued, 11 civil process papers served, and we had 7 transports for the month. The average number on electronic monitoring was 3. Dispatch activity, we had 611 calls for service come through dispatch.
Is that high?
I
I feel like that number is usually not quite that high.
I'd have to go back. I don't think it's that far off since we changed.
Oh, that's right, you guys changed. how you-
Yeah, it is
That's right.
historically. More recent, not that. 95 calls for EMS and 100 calls for police.
All right. Any questions on the report? All right. So anything else on item 13 then? You don't have any other reports you want to discuss right now?
I mean, we've been, just to say that we've been actively, trying to pursue employees.
I was gonna say, what is our staffing? What openings do we currently have?
Well, actually, so staffing update, we're down 2 casual positions. They've been casual positions that have, we've not been utilizing for over a year for both of them, I believe now. We're close to it.
Yes, over a year.
You haven't needed them, or they just
They
haven't
just haven't
been
been.
able to
they
work
haven't
when you
been
need
able to work.
them?
Yeah.
Okay,
So, we have removed both of them from the roster now. At this time, they did give us a confirmation that they wanted to resign.
okay,
So, so that would have been, Braden Palmer and, Kyla Kelter.
okay,
So, but we have, started training a new casual position, which we had
Mhm.
talked about confirming at this meeting. And we have an application for another one, as well as we have some interest for full-time positions now. So things are looking up. I've also been in talks with one individual, hopefully a second individual on court security positions. So trying to get our casual pool buffered for that as well.
okay.
But I don't.
So do we have any
applications.
current openings in the jail?
Yes.
Yes.
Male, female,
Oh,
both?
With the motion of Devin to the Mr. Well, 2 open female positions.
Okay. And on the road side,
We're full staff currently. Well, technically.
did you even say
no.
out loud?
Well, that's actually.
We're not. We also had a retirement. Investigator Toby Johnson is retired
Really?
effective 1st. So we do have an open position, so that's not true.
So what's the plan on filling that position?
We had posted it. We had 2 signings, 2 signatures on the posting. So we'll be starting the process to fill that shortly. So that is a union position. So we'll be following the union guidance on that. The contract guidance, I guess, on that,
As far as what?
the process.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is that different than what we followed in the past?
A little bit. It's a sign posting
written test, competitive examination, seniority based, and then sheriff's points. So, yeah,
Sheriff's points?
yep, my preference points. Yeah,
And the committee will interview that for that position?
not that one.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, by contract, there's no interview that needs to be associated with that.
Assuming it's from within the department. If you were to do an external search.
If we were doing an external search and it was a hiring process, then yes, there would be interviews involved in that.
Okay,
Yeah,
interesting.
we've never had it come to that I know of.
No.
I don't
Well,
know.
when we moved the position from the union to out of the union,
Okay, yes, when it was a lieutenant.
it was lieutenant position, lieutenant investigator.
But it's not now. Now
No.
it's just, okay.
Yep.
All right. Otherwise, okay.
Yeah.
Treading water? Treading water?
Yeah.
Okay, so that brings us to item number 14. So I'm actually, part of the demographics, the report is in here. I usually do a summary, kind of looking at, essentially we did this a few years ago. This was just a check-in to see how well we're doing on not racial profiling and just making sure that, that we're being fair and whatever. So I can't present you with the information because I realize that I need some more information from the sheriff's office before we can have an in-depth discussion. So I'm gonna actually delay this until the next meeting where we can have all of the information, accurate information in front of us. I realize that some of the numbers. So for example, when it talks about how many inmates there were and how it breaks down by race, this is how many bookings there were. So it could be this, what's not taken into consideration is the fact that it could be the same person multiple times. So I have to account for that factor before I can give you accurate statistics as to what percentage of each individual race's population we've been incarcerating. So, so I will bring back that information.
Are these demographics based on total bookings? So that could be the police department bringing them in.
So
Might
there's
not
some question about that. I had a discussion with Jason about that yesterday. So the way I ran the report, I ran it for Richland County Sheriff arrests.
You did. If you look at the bottom
So-
description.
But Jason thinks that the way it was set up is that all county bookings show as a county arrest.
Correct, they do.
Yeah.
At least they did in the past. So the demographics are good, but it's also not showing what the separation is between the
Your
city
department.
and the county.
So again,
I
that's
think
another
that's a
thing.
piece of the puzzle that
Yep.
will make a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I want to make sure that when we start talking about these numbers, that we have accurate,
Right.
or at least can explain what is included versus what's not included so that we can have.
And I think that's probably worth the conversation to have too, is how do we adjust that? So that when I run a report and I want to see my
Your staff.
office's activity, I don't want to see the police
So,
activity.
and,
We need to make it so I can actually do that.
Right.
and with the citation, summary be the same way? Or is
I
that
think
should we run that?
we don't get their citation data, so that would be strictly us.
Okay.
Yep.
So maybe that's a better way to look at it, is just look at the citation to see who we're pulling over.
Yeah.
But it's on bookings, yes.
So
I did say.
we did citations separately that I just
Only.
haven't.
Because bookings might be a PNP issue. Someone's from some other place, and it's, for instance, is black, is in a car, it's a PNP warrant. The person who got pulled over is not, so, right, so it's not like we're.
Yeah, so it seems like the
We're not-
citation data is probably a better way to look, to just see who we're pulling over. And since that's just sheriff's department, that might be a more accurate way to just take a peek at how we're doing. We did this a few years ago, and I don't think I realized all of the little nuances of it, so,
I didn't realize that when I was looking at the data the last time I did this, that the police department data was included in it as well.
Mhm.
So.
yeah. So I think we can have a better conversation about it after I figure out all of these little nuances. So we're not gonna talk, so we'll just table that till next time. And we won't take any action this time. All right, so 89.7. It seems like every time we just do a little piecemeal of hacking away at this, we spend a lot of time backtracking. And so I do, as much as I hate to schedule another meeting, I do think it would be probably more efficient for all of us involved
Absolutely.
if we just schedule a meeting and just tackle this sucker and get it done.
Yep.
We definitely need to get it done sooner rather than later, because it doesn't even include the jail administrator position in there, who is now in existence. So we really should get our ducks in a row here. So I guess, can everyone just look at their calendars right now, and can we pick a date?
I'm just going the week of January 21st through 27th.
Okay, so what about the last weekend in January?
I won't be able to.
You'll be gone? I mean, I need 4 people. So does anyone else not work the week of the 29th of January? I mean, I suppose we could even go earlier. When do you leave?
I leave the 20th.
Well, what about the week of the 15th?
Yeah, as long as it doesn't interfere with county board or Pine Valley.
When's Pine Valley?
Pine Valley's Monday night.
Well, that's Martin Luther King.
That's
Day.
Martin Luther King Day.
Holiday, isn't it?
Huh?
That's a holiday. It's a state holiday, but not a county.
I was gonna say, I have to look at the policy to see if it's.
Okay, so let's just, I'm just gonna start throwing out days here, and I don't know if we wanna have, we can have an evening if that works better, I don't. So how about Wednesday the 17th?
So the only thing I'll say on Wednesday, is we have the radio project meeting from.
In the morning from 9 to 10. Yeah.
But other than that.
Other than that.
I'm open that day.
I can do the 17th, I'd be on the 18th, 19th.
Okay, so 17th, Dave, Barb, January 17th.
Later in the day, would be fine.
Later in
I
the day?
got 2 morning meetings.
How about like 1 o'clock? Or do we want?
I'm free the 17th also.
Okay,
Same here.
do you want, would evening be better, or is it okay if we do it during the day? I mean, I'd prefer to do it during the day since we're obviously gonna have it occupying the sheriff, but
I
1
think I have
o'clock?
a meeting at 7 p.m. I have a meeting at 7 p.m. on the 17th.
okay, so 1 o'clock, but 1 o'clock would work?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just, so the only thing on that agenda will be 89.7, 17, January 17th at 1 p.m. Okay, cool, yay. Let's just, let's plan on at least a couple hours, just to get it done. I will resend out without the dates we've already made. I'll send that out. I'll probably send it right after this meeting today so that you're all aware of and can read that beforehand. I think what I might do when we meet is I might do, instead of going through every single word of it, I might just ask you to tell me things that you think need to change, and we'll just do those things. And I think it'll mostly probably come from you guys, and then we'll have discussions around those instead of trying to just go word by word. That might be a more efficient use of everyone's time. So be prepared to tell me what you don't like or what you think needs to change at that meeting.
Send it out.
Okay, all right, radio tower project updates. Want to just tell us, do we have all our contracts of where we're putting our towers figured out?
So, and that actually reminds me, I need to send a site lease to Mike Wendell. Right now we are working on, like, I think we have our sites narrowed down. They're working on, how do I want to say it? Regulatory.
The FFA
Yep,
part?
yep, that kind of stuff. But yeah, we have our sites narrowed down. We need to get, so I have letters of intent with landowners. We're moving into where we need to start getting leases, actual leases with landowners.
But we have the letters of intent,
I do have the letters of intent.
so we know where our towers are going to go.
Yep, yep.
Okay, that's huge.
So, and we have more than what we actually have towers, so we have alternate sites if we.
If the FFA part
Yeah.
falls through, or this, or whatever regulation things fall through. Okay.
Yeah, and we signed DDR in December,
Yep, we did.
so.
We made our big payment.
I don't know if payments been made yet, but that would be.
Signed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
That, I mean, that's a big,
It was
step
huge to
forward.
get to that point, yes.
Yep. So, yeah, Barb, do you have anything to add? I said, we're working on, we need to get site leases, like
Yeah.
lease agreements signed.
Yeah.
DDR is signed. We're in the regulatory stuff on tower sites.
I got FAA approval on one, and I saw another one come through that they're working on, so we're getting pretty close on that. And I have the recorder stuff, I have, that is in process as well, so all of it is moving. But it's like, it went slow, now
For so long, and now it's
Everything.
finally falling into place.
like, just balls are rolling everywhere.
Right, we're meeting with the city.
Yes, that's right. On the 8th, we meet with the city to get an agreement for.
So.
Good,
yeah,
because US Cellular said we want to get that agreement, what we want in writing, and
Well, US Cellular said, whatever, do what you want to do, but you should have one.
Right.
And Mike Day is like, you should.
yeah,
So,
yeah, please, we don't want to turn around. that.
So we are really, things are moving a lot quicker all of a sudden.
Thank goodness, because holy cow,
just good.
that startup process was painful.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else on that? That's all really good news. All right, that brings us to mapping radio system and squad updates.
The
Squad.
squad updates, that are thing that having issues getting into our Quick Trip account through the internet.
Oh.
So I haven't been able to, I couldn't go in and actually see what the
Mileage.
mileage was for squad cars, update that.
Okay, so that's just another little technical thing we need to work
Yeah,
out.
we'll have to figure it out.
Okay, anything else on mapping or?
I guess on squads too, we did have a pursuit over the weekend, was it Saturday? And we had minor damage to one car, but it doesn't sound like it's gonna be significant.
Not even sure the paint is scratched through, but there is scratches. Yeah.
So we made out of that one pretty good.
I heard about that because people are always asking me, like I would know.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on with, and
So I
and
don't-
I'm like, I don't know.
Radio on, it's
I-
nasty.
The sheriff does not call me every single time that there's something going on.
Sheriff didn't get called.
I didn't get
messaged
called.
him.
Yeah. He told me. But yeah, it's, we had
Have we had any insurance claims in 23?
oh yeah.
Yes.
Or 20, oh, this would be a 24.
Yeah, we've had,
This would be a 24.
Couple of recent, one or more recent deer.
Mhm.
Deer.
Yeah, at
hits.
least two. I think we have two for sure.
Yeah. So
So we're gonna go over on our, I
I
think
think
last
we're
year.
still under on that. I think.
Well, this would be 24 now, the
We're
one
now
that
we're-
just happened would be
Yeah.
24.
Yeah, we're under, I mean, those were under the deductible, so they just come out of out of the sheriff's budget.
Oh, okay.
Which I think, don't quote me, I think we're under on our repair budget. Yeah.
I think we're.
Okay, all right. Is there any other than touching back on demographics discussion? Any other agenda items we need to? All right, so that brings us to closed session. All right, so we have two closed session items. I'm assuming that we don't have to come back into open session and go into the second closed session. We can handle both closed session items under the same closed session.
I think we just need to cite the statute when we're
Yeah,
moving from
yeah.
one into the next.
Well, it'll be in closed session, no one will hear me say that. So I was gonna say it now.
Recorded, or yeah.
Well, okay, so, all right, so one, jail inspection and evaluation of jail staff performance in closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 1895 1C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. And closed session, item number 2, interview the jail administrator pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 1985 1C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee. So it's the same reasoning in the same statute. So I feel like they're all the same thing. So we're going to go into closed session. I'm going to actually ask that everyone except Candace, I'm going to have you guys leave the room just for a minute so I can just talk to them about why we're having this.
Need a motion to go to closed session?
I do need a motion, yes. So I take a motion to go to.
I'll make that motion.
All right, motion by Turk, second by Renish. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and I do need to hear everyone, so I know it's unanimous.
Aye.
Barb, did you? I heard Carrie. What about Barb?
She lit out.
I'm sorry, yes, aye.
Okay, all right, so I have a unanimous vote to go into closed session. So I'm gonna ask everyone except Candace to just clear the room for a minute, and then you'll have to remove the guest. So
Yeah.
Dave and Carrie and Barb will be allowed in the room.
Lock.
Shit.
Yeah, well, Barb is gonna be leaving, so.
I'm just gonna stop the recording here.
Yes, please.
Okay with that. No, like, I'm not planning to connect.
Oh, I can start it back.